Welcome back. Now, it is the biggest event that startups are watching out for. The Prime Minister's detailing of the Startup India movement on the 16th. Now, we're going to be tracking that event closely. It's going to be attended by close to 1,500 top startups, as well as CEOs and founders from across the country. And in the run-up to this, through the week, we'll be talking to various stakeholders from the startup community on what will be driving the next wave of growth and what they're hoping to hear as well in terms of incentives on Saturday. Today we have with us Ramakrishna NK, the co-founder and CEO of Rangde, to discuss why we need more startups that serve the social sector for a real inclusive growth. Let me just welcome him in. Rama, thanks so much for being with us. Want to get a sense from you first and foremost about really a little bit more about Rangde and why you feel it's important to have more startups catering to social impact and perhaps, as I just mentioned, creating an inclusive scenario going forward.
Yeah, well, at Rangde, what we really do is connect low-income entrepreneurs across the country and students from low-income households to affordable microcredit. And we do this using our online platform where we raise philanthropic capital and we channel it to them as credit. The problem which we're trying to solve at Rangde is a fairly complex one. Given a country of India's size, we still have only about 15% of our eligible population has access to credit from a formal financial source. So as an organization, we are mission focused to serve the truly underserved. As we call it, Rangde, we are focused on serving the first-time borrowers. And yeah, so that's what we do at Rangde. And yeah,
right. So Rama, I want to get a sense from you when we're talking about the Startup India plan that's going to be unveiled on Saturday. What would someone like yourself want to hear from the Prime Minister, ways in which they can facilitate growth for a startup like yours?
Yeah, I think if you look at the whole, as a country, as in India, I think we still have a very, very long way to, to look at, truly, if you want to look at truly inclusive growth. So, we're close to.
All right, we'll just get back to Ramakrishna in just a moment. But just to recap what Rangde really does, it's a non-profit peer-to-peer lending platform to lower the cost of microcredit for the undeserved. So, they're really looking at it, as you just heard from Ramakrishna as well, to make poverty history in India. Raman, just to let you complete that point, we lost you in the middle there.
Okay, so what we essentially, if you look at the country as a whole, we still have a long way to go. You can look at various estimates, but we still have about 500 million Indians, who don't have access to basic services, be it access to sanitation, be it access to clean drinking water, be it access to, good education. And I think, And I think this is a good time for technology, to play a very important role. And to make that happen, I think we need, a lot of entrepreneurs, many entrepreneurs getting into the social space, which currently is not the case. So clearly, I think what I appeal from the government and Prime Minister in particular is to see how they can have a special focus on this, because traditionally, there have been just two models. One model has been the traditional philanthropic way of doing business, and the other one has been the for-profit, but at the same time, social enterprise model. I think the need of the hour is to have a kind of a sustainable business model, which is entirely focused on solving the social problem. So clearly, a kind of a non-loss, non-dividend paying kind of a business model, which entirely focuses, be it the capital which it receives, and be it the founders, be it the investors. I think they are all, focused on solving the social problem, and that's something which I think can happen if the government can facilitate, help nurture an ecosystem where we can incubate social entrepreneurs who have a single purpose and a single-minded focus on solving the problem.
So, Rama, the interesting bit out here is what kind of interest are you then generating out here? Are you seeing, investors latch on to you to take this route itself? Because as you're saying, this is more from a social cause point of view itself. So, take us as to what kind of traction are you really witnessing?
So you're talking about Rang Day here?
Yeah.
Is that?
That's right.
Okay, so I think it's been a phenomenal journey. 26th of January this year will complete 8 years. What we've really seen is individuals, and especially from civil society, the working professionals, software engineers, professionals from different walks of life have come forward, and in many ways they're first-time philanthropists. I think for us at Rangde, the amount doesn't really matter. What matters is the ability for people to connect. I think that's where we have been fairly successful in bridging that empathy gap, which I think is huge in India. I think if you get people closer to the problem which India faces, I think you see something magical coming out of it, either by way of contributing the time or giving money or even starting up something in the social space. So I think it's been a phenomenal ride. We've funded close to more than 40,000 entrepreneurs across 15 states in India.
Just before we let you go, Rama, just want to get a perspective from you on how some of the government's attempts already towards financial inclusion have helped. For instance, when we're talking about things like the Jan Dhan Yojana scheme, or whether we're talking about, for example, the entire payment system and how it's evolving, how do some of these measures in the financial space start to add up and help at the grassroots?
Right. So I think, so Prime Minister Jan Dhan Yojana has been a phenomenal program in itself. But I think what we fail to understand is that it's one thing to have a bank account. It's a completely different thing for someone in a rural setting to access the bank account, cash in and cash out. But I think, I'm very excited personally, to look at the new regulations that are coming in, especially the payment banks and the small finance banks. That's fantastic, piece of regulation, which will actually usher in this year, especially would be, as many are looking forward to. I think when the payment banks roll out, I think they're going to cause a lot of disruption. So very excited about it, and that is where I think we will see a lot of innovation, a lot many entrepreneurs getting in and making India truly, financially inclusive.
Fantastic. Rama, thanks so much for joining us today with your perspective. We're looking forward to, of course, interacting with you more and also hearing how the Prime Minister addresses some of those concerns in that big event on Saturday. We'll, of course, be bringing you live and exclusive coverage right here on Bloomberg TV India.